Hello. So let's talk sourdough. You've got a starter. Now what? If you got your starter from me, it's going to come in a jar with a little bit of sourdough starter in the bottom. Your jars weigh approximately 200 grams, and I have set you up with a quarter of a cup, or about 40 grams of sourdough starter. When you get it, one of the things you're going to need to do is, first off, you name it. You must name it. This is your friend. You're going to get to know each other really well. It's going to be good times and hard times. But don't worry about it. Sourdough, I have found to be a lot more forgiving than some of the blog posts and articles that you read let on. Things that aren't flexible don't last in my kitchen. And I have been baking with sourdough since all the cool kids started doing it during the pandemic. I have had peaks where I've done it really, really routinely and by the book, and I have had time where I'm like, shoot, we need bread, let's throw something together. And it still works. So don't get too lost or overwhelmed by the technicality that you may find when you're reading some articles or some recipes. I will teach you a couple of our favorite recipes in subsequent videos, and ones that are just really, really easy to get started with. Don't be discouraged if it takes you a couple of tries to get a feel for it. It's normal. It's probably still going to be edible, and you will learn from there. So, feeding your sourdough starter, like I said, I gave you about a quarter of a cup. I usually do, they call it 100% hydration, which means 1 part sourdough starter, 1 part water, 1 part flour. Most people do it by weight. It's not a bad idea. I find it messy and finicky. I do it by volume and intuition. So if you are the type that likes to do it by weight, remember I said your jar was 200 grams, you got 40 grams of starter in here. You're going to tare your scale, or you can do the math, whatever way you work. You're going to add 40 grams of water and 40 grams of flour. Helpful tip to note is that your water and your starter, your volume and your weights will be the same. So if you have a quarter of a cup of starter at 40 grams, a quarter of a cup of water will also weigh 40 grams. Your flour is a little bit more. You're going to have a little bit more volume to get the 40 grams of weight. Roughly, it's not quite double. And I know that's super loose, but like I said, you're going to do it by feel. It's going to be okay. So if I have a quarter cup of starter, I'm going to add a quarter cup of water and a generous third cup of flour. You're going for a consistency between pancake batter and like muffin batter before you put the frozen blueberries in. And then you're going to leave it. You're going to leave it to ferment with the lid off because you want fresh air to get in there. And usually in about 4 to 6 hours, depending on the warmth of your kitchen. If your house tends to run cool, it may be longer, closer to 8. It's going to get bubbly, it's going to swell up. A really helpful tip is you can either take, I use these, I don't even know where it is, but there's like oil-based markers that you can use to like write your name on glass, and either put a mark there, or you can just put an elastic band around your jar to mark your starting position. And it's really easy to tell as your starter has become active and bubbly. You can see if it's doubled in size. When it has doubled in size, then that's usually a good indicator that you're ready to go. You're ready to start your first recipe. If you have a stretch where you're not going to bake, or maybe I've brought it to you today and you're not quite ready to delve into it, put it in the fridge, and you can put the lid on it, otherwise it kind of dries out and gets a crust on the top. And when you're ready to tackle it, come back and feed it. I often will feed mine, after lunch, when I'm cleaning up from lunch. I do it by measurement. I don't bother with the scale. And then I will leave it on the counter, and then sometime after supper when the kids are in bed, I'll go ahead and start my bread for the quick, easy loaf. Then it will be ready to bake the next morning. But we will get into that later. The really important takeaways is 1, have fun with it. 2, you're going to feed your quarter cup of starter, a quarter cup of water, and about a third of a cup of all-purpose flour. Stir it up. leave it. Congratulations, your first step is done. You're well on your way to being a sourdough baker. If you need a pep talk, you need someone to hold your hand, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. We'll talk again.